The people who weep before my pictures are having the same religious experience I had when I painted them, said the atheist, and arguably the most important artist of the 20th century. Mark Rothko is a pivotal figure and one of the earliest pioneers in abstract painting, best known for his massive canvases filled with blended rectangles of pure color. Make sure to stay until the end, where I reveal the Rothko phenomenon, the psychological explanation behind the emotional impact his art has on his audience. Rothko's signature style is large canvases with soft rectangles of color, and although they can look decorative, Rothko didn't intend them to be. For him, they were very deep works, and many people report feeling profound emotions when they look at them. In order to understand Rothko's work, we need to take a look at his life. Mark Rothko was born in 1903 in Dvinsk, Russia, which is today Latvia, into a Jewish family of left-wing intellectual atheists. Jewish families in Russia at the time were subjected to widespread persecution and even violence. So when Rothko was 10 years old, his family moved to Portland, Oregon in the US. And although the US offered safety, Rothko found his new home alienating and shallow. He didn't appreciate the optimism and was critical of the capitalist culture focused on materialism and wealth. Mark Rothko studied at the Yale University on a scholarship, though he left without graduating. He later studied at the Art Students League in New York City and at the Parsons School of Design. Before arriving at his famous rectangular fields of color, Rothko experimented with many different styles. In his early years, he painted figures, mythological scenes, surrealist compositions, and urban settings. It wasn't until the late 1940s that Rothko developed the floating, luminous rectangles that would define his style. In 1958, Rothko received his first major commission, a series of murals for the luxurious Four Seasons restaurant in New York City. Though the project offered prestige and substantial payment, Rothko ultimately withdrew. He felt the work would be diminished or profaned, as he put it, being displayed in a dining room for the wealthy elite. This decision underscores the seriousness of the purpose of Rothko's work. He believed that art, especially his art, should be encountered as almost a sacred object, not as decoration. A key intellectual influence on Rothko was Friedrich Nietzsche's The Birth of Tragedy, specifically Nietzsche's vision of tragic art. The idea that art could reveal the struggle at the heart of human existence and, paradoxically, give meaning to life in a modern and secularized world. Rothko believed that tragedy, when honestly faced and expressed, could be redemptive, and his own life reflected this tragic sense. He was an intensely conflicted personality, intellectually rigorous, but at the same time emotionally volatile. Rothko was a heavy drinker, and he smoked several packs of cigarettes a day. And despite his inner turmoil, he found solace in certain things. For example, music, specifically Mozart. He loved Mozart, saying that his music was always smiling through tears, a sentiment that resonated deeply with Rothko's own artistic vision. Rothko ended his own life in 1970 at the age of 66. Interestingly, or not so much, the year before his death, he donated the Seagram murals, the ones that were supposed to be installed at the Four Seasons restaurant in New York, to the Tate Gallery. After his death, the Tate Gallery in London installed his works according to the precise conditions he had envisioned, dimly lit with paintings arranged to create an immersive contemplative environment. This almost felt like a posthumous glorification of his death. And there is no doubt he did this intentionally. Rothko had a deep understanding of the art market, specifically the myth of the tortured artist. He knew that death, tragically, often cements the artist's legacy and value. During his lifetime, he achieved recognition, but nothing like the astronomical prices we see today. If you're curious to find out why this happens to so many artists, check out the video I made on the art market. Rothko was very different from his contemporaries, like Andy Warhol, who were making whatever was fashionable. Rothko saw Warhol and other pop artists as young opportunists. He mocked Warhol's work and refused to be in the same room as him. If you're interested to know more about Warhol, watch the video that I made on him. Ultimately, Rothko was not there for the money or to impress his audience. there's no doubt that he was genuine. So what then is the Rothko phenomenon? Visitors frequently report feeling profound sadness, awe, or even transcendence when looking at his monumental canvases. And these reactions are not incidental. Rothko himself said, "I am interested in only expressing basic human emotions, tragedy, ecstasy, and doom." His goal was never to create decoration or abstraction simply for its own sake. Instead, he wanted to evoke an immediate and almost primal emotional response, something universal that transcends language and culture. I've heard so many people, especially at my university, speak of Rothko as if he was this ethereal genius. But I'm here to tell you, he wasn't. Although he was quite smart, what he did can be logically explained. Rothko's paintings seem deceptively simple, floating rectangular forms of color on vast fields, yet their scale, subtle layering, and radiant edges create a sense of depth and presence. Standing before them, especially in the hushed atmosphere he preferred, viewers feel as though they are not just looking at a painting, but entering into a charged meditative state. And the emotional power of his work, its capacity to move people to tears or awe, is thus the realization of Rothko's intention. In this sense, the Rothko phenomenon is not a mystery to be solved, but the result of a deliberate artistic strategy. So what is his secret? I believe it lies in the combination of two things. The first one being scale. Standing in front of a 3-meter canvas of glowing color is physically overwhelming. When you look at small reproductions through books or screens like you are doing right now at the same work, these pieces lose their effect entirely. I'm not trying to ignore all the work that Rothko put into his paintings. He was very intentional. But what's happening with the viewer is not a spiritual or mystical phenomenon. It's totally scientific and explainable with color theory and composition. The mysticism is largely a psychological reaction to being engulfed by the scale. And the second thing is color. Colors have a very serious emotional impact on us. There's even a whole field of study called color psychology. Dr. Rachel Goldman, who did a lot of research on this topic, said that it's amazing how colors can truly impact our mood and influence our behavior. For example, hospital walls are usually salad green or white because these are the colors that promote calmness. Imagine the walls were bright red. This would cause anxiety and fear. Blue color, for example, inspires learning. This is why many classrooms in schools are designed with a light blue. Here are some examples of symbolic color associations we make daily without realizing. There's a really good book called The Secret Lives of Color by Cassia St. Clair, which talks about how different colors affect us psychologically. Psychologist Carl Jung stated, "Colors are the mother tongue of the subconscious, a belief that influences development of art therapies." Let's analyze one of Rothko's most famous paintings, Black on Maroon, from this perspective. The painting is nearly 3 meters tall. When you stand in front of it, your entire field of vision is swallowed by color. There is no figures, no horizon, no grounding point. Just a vast meditative void. This creates a somatic reaction. Your body is dwarfed, almost silenced. It's similar to standing in a cathedral or before a vast natural landscape. Now, the color combination deep maroon and heavy black is intentionally somber. Maroon is a dark blood-like red, tied to passion and sacrifice. Black is often read as mysterious, noble, but also cold. We associate it with death and mourning and grief. You might not walk away thinking of the colors red and black, but your nervous system reacts to them. Those emotions are awakened and felt deeply, whether you recognize it consciously or not. And of course, the setting is crucial. The Tate Rothko room is dimly lit and acoustically hushed. There are benches for sitting, inviting prolonged stillness. If you strip these paintings from their controlled environment, much of their power dissipates. Some will say that Rothko's work is about emotions or spirituality, and sure, it is, but acknowledging that does not subtract from the fact that the profound effect is amplified by context, scale, and presentation, rather than an inherent mystical quality. And I don't like criticizing Rothko that much because, as I said, I think differently from the artist of his time, he was genuine. He wasn't trying to make money. He was actually trying to convey something to the world. But I do think he's a bit overrated. At the same time, his work shows us the important difference of seeing works in person versus online. Many people think that it's not necessary to go to museums anymore because you can find almost any painting in your phone or in your tablet. But the effect of the painting on the viewer is usually lost if it's not seen in person and under the correct conditions. Museums are just as necessary today as they were before. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. Please let me know in the comments what you think of Rothko and his work and other topics that you'd like me to discuss on this channel. And I'll see you in the next video.